Why don't we take a minute to introduce ourselves? And this is going to be a pretty interactive webinar. We don't really have a presentation planned or anything like that because packing is such an individual thing. And everyone kind of has their own quirks, their own questions. But we have people from Res Life and from Operations who are ready to both answer your questions about housing and housing processes, but also give you some tips from back in the day when we were moving into our dorm rooms as well. So why don't we all introduce ourselves real quick? And while we're doing that, any of you attendees, if you want to start asking some questions, we can put them in the Q&A, and then we can answer those questions as they come up. And in the meantime, we'll introduce ourselves and then kind of launch into our own tips and tricks. So I'll start. My name's Mark Anderson. I'm a community director here, and I oversee Ghaffari Hall, which is a predominantly underclassmen building. And Ghaffari Hall is single or double room style. So really what that means is you'll live either by yourself or with one other person in a room with a bathroom. So that's kind of the makeup of our building. Krista?
For sure. Hi, I'm Krista Motz. I'm also a community director here at Wayne State. Right now I oversee Towers Residential Suites. Our most common room type is what we call D suite, which is 4 individual bedrooms and a shower and toilet separate area first. So kind of 2 split bathrooms. In this next year, I should be over Chatsworth Suites. The most common there is a 4-person suite, 2 people per bedroom, and a living area as well, with similar bathroom styles.
Mark, you muted, but I think that's my cue. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jennifer Johnson. I'm the community director in Atchison Hall that's actually connected to Ghaffari. And so here in Atchison, we are a primarily first-year building as well. And here we have single rooms and double rooms as well for this year.
Yep, and we also have apartment-style communities, and none of us work directly in those communities, but we all indirectly work with them too. So if you're signed up for an apartment-style community, whether furnished or unfurnished, we would also be happy to answer your questions. And then we have 2 people from the operations team too. So Debbie, you're up.
Debbie Michael, the apartment coordinator. I do the assignments for University Tower and eventually Anthony Wayne Drive. Mostly upperclassmen that live there, graduate students, medical students, professional students. There's 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms there, and they are unfurnished. They are apartments, just like apartments that you would get off campus, but they're ran by us.
Great. And Kelly?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Kelly Thacker. I'm the Director of Housing and Dining Operations. So I do a lot of things with the team behind the scenes. So marketing, billing, housing license agreements, assignments, meal plans, a whole bunch of different things. And so Debbie and I work together with our other colleagues to make sure that everything before you arrive is all set and ready to go. And then we help you through some of our processes throughout the academic year. And I've had lots of experience moving myself to, I've lived on at least 4 different campuses and have helped family members as well. So lots of experience moving and packing, as many of us have lived and worked around the country.
Perfect. Okay, so that's our team, and no questions yet in the chat, but just a reminder, you have a Q&A button, unless you're on the phone, I'm so sorry, but if
There's actually a question in the chat. So there was a question in the chat, it just came in.
Oh, there's also a chat, perfect. Okay,
yes.
So the question is, actually it's for Atchison, so Jennifer, why don't you take that away?
Sure. So for anybody who can't see the question, it's asking about the bed sizes in Atchison, and this will actually go for Atchison and Ghaffari. I'm not sure what the sizes are in Chatsworth or in the Thompson home, but all of our beds here are a twin XL. So when y'all are shopping at Target or wherever you're shopping, make sure that you're getting the twin XL size and not like just regular twin, because you'll be short a few corners.
Yes, and as the token tall person here, I'm 6'3", and I've been 6'3" all through college, and I fit wonderfully on a twin XL bed. So, in fact, I kind of missed it after I left.
The only location on campus that we don't have the twin XL is in Anthony Wayne Drive, which are furnished apartments, and those are full-size beds. So if anybody is on the call today that will be in Anthony Wayne Drive, all of our beds are full-size beds over there.
Perfect. Good question. Thanks for kicking us off.
So it looks like we have another one. If anything, I could just keep an eye on the chat if that works for everybody.
Oh, okay.
The question is, what lighting is provided in the rooms in Ghaffari?
Oh, okay. So the chat is different than the Q&A. Got it. Good question. So the lighting situation in Ghaffari is that I would encourage you to be prepared to bring a lot of your own, because there's a light in the bathroom, of course, and then there's a hallway light, and the hallway isn't very big. It's basically just like the width of the bathroom, but there is a light in that kind of walkway there. But then other than that, there really aren't any. So just be prepared with a couple of floor lamps, and maybe a desk lamp. And I believe that's the same for most spaces. Am I correct?
That's the same for towers. Yeah, towers does not have any overhead lighting. It's the same as like the walk-in light. Chatsworth does have overhead lighting, and so does AWD, Anthony Wayne Drive Apartments.
Great. And I believe Atchison is the same as Ghaffari, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, we're pretty identical. And then
Yeah.
UT has a similar situation. Is that right?
Correct. Yep,
Yeah.
they have to bring their own lamps. Yep.
Good questions. And so while other questions come in, either in the chat or in the Q&A, does anyone here have just any like fun facts or tips that they came across as they began to move in and out of their spaces in college or anything like that?
Yeah, I think like as a first year student, the biggest thing is questions that we tend to get a lot is, should I loft my bed? What do I need to do to loft my bed to get more space? Even in single rooms and towers and stuff, you obviously can get the most utilization out of your space is if you do loft your bed here at Wayne State. In towers, Ghaffari, and Atchison. I'm unsure about the Thompson home, but we provide lofting equipment. We don't allow outside lofts to come into our residence halls, so that's a nice thing that you don't need to worry about packing is lofting equipment. In Chatsworth, the beds are not loftable, and the same rules apply that you're not allowed to bring in lofting equipment. But I think a huge thing that ties into that one is the style of bed sets. It's still twin XL, but also there's a huge living space in each of the suites. So it's less needed to loft your bed in your room, but you can utilize a lot of space. A lot of people just loft their beds enough to put their mini fridges under their room, which creates more space. Some people loft it fully and put their desk under it. It's really up to you and your comfort level of how high up you want your bed to be. But I encourage people to get really creative with lofting their beds and like the heights with it, because you can do a lot of storage and a lot of dressers and stuff can fit underneath the lofted bed.
Yeah, for sure. So a follow up on that one. And I was just going to mention for Ghaffari and Atchison, lofting equipment is available also during move-in day. Just talk to RA. We don't have lofting equipment for everybody. But one of the nice things about the furniture that we do have in those rooms is that the way that our beds are set up is that there's an adjustable height on the bed frame. So when I was a student, I usually put it all the way up on the top rung of the bed frame, and that allowed for my dresser to fit nicely underneath it, which left a lot of space open. So what I did is I put my dresser underneath, and then I put other storage underneath kind of the other side. And that was plenty tall enough to do that. So I don't have an exact height just because it is adjustable, but you can do it pretty low to the ground all the way up to maybe, I don't even want to say 4 feet. And that's
I think at the tallest you can fit the standard mini fridge at like, I think it's 3 feet 2 inches or something like that. You can fit that at the tallest height underneath it pretty well, and also the dressers we provide.
For sure. And I would also mention a tip about lofting is that if you do have a roommate or roommates sharing your space, try and have a conversation about that before you arrive, just because sometimes people think, well, I want to loft my space, but then your roommate comes in and has like a newer or a better or cooler idea. And then that's taking equipment maybe away from someone who does want it. So I would encourage anyone who's living in the same space to just connect and see if like there are some preferences or ideas before coming in, because I was never a lofter. I just preferred not to. And so I just felt like I could utilize the space in a similar way without lofting my bed. So I never did it. But bunking, that's a question too. Does anyone want to take on that question?
In towers, you cannot bunk the beds. Chatsworth Suites, you cannot bunk the beds. I'm unsure about Atchison Ghaffari.
No.
Yeah, I was just gonna say no. We don't allow that just for safety purposes.
Yep.
Mark, I do want to make a plug at this point, as we've been talking about kind of the room setup, is that although we're not doing in-person tours, we are offering virtual tours. And so we have student staff members that will actually walk through the different spaces for you. And I know that they've actually been measuring some things. And so if you do have really specific questions, I would encourage you to sign up for one of those virtual tours. And then that staff member can answer those questions in live real time as you're looking at the space. So that's a real benefit to all of you right now, is that, you know, we have a lot more availability for those virtual tours than we have been able to do with the in-person tours. So that's a great option, and you can sign up for those from our main housing website.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are completely one-on-one too. So you'll have opportunity to ask specific questions about the space that you're living in. A question about fridges. Does anyone have any suggestions on where fridges are placed and if they're allowed?
Yeah, so one of the best things about working in the freshman hall is just seeing the creative ways that everybody sets up their rooms and things like that. And so in meeting with like the freshmen and being invited into their space, I've seen people have them on the floor. I've seen people put them like beside their desk or, on top of their dresser, at like a safe height. And so as long as it's not too big, I think that most of our spaces here allow for it to be useful and out the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In towers, since most of our areas do have a common living space, most people put their mini fridges in the common living space. Since Chatsworth is set up very similar, I do expect it to most likely be the same way, that people don't put their mini fridge in their individual bedroom, but put it in the common living space and share it amongst their suite mates.
Yep. Same with Ghaffari. And I just want to make a distinction here because at a former institution that I worked at, this family literally brought a full-size fridge and hauled it up 4 flights of stairs for us to tell them that that's not allowed. So I just want to make sure that, like there are mini fridge standards in our common space and in our rooms. Now, apartments have fridges, unfurnished apartments even have full-size fridges. So don't worry too much about that. But we do allow mini fridges, and sometimes people even bring one for each roommate, and that's okay, but almost never necessary unless there's some specific reason. So again, reach out to the person that you're living with just to make sure appliances are all, there's just not too many appliances going on. Mm-hmm. But yes, they are allowed. And another quick plug to the website, if you are ever wondering what is and isn't allowed in our spaces, you can go to our website, look at that, housing.wayne.edu. There's a space where you can look at our community living guide, what you can and can't bring. that kind of thing. So you can look and see what appliances we allow. Okay, more questions coming in. On move-in day, because of COVID restrictions, will there be staggered or assigned times, operations?
Sure, I can talk a little bit more about that. So we're still in some planning phases right now. We do plan to send out an email to all students within the next 7 to 10 days. So either next week or early the week after, just about the move-in process. We will have staggered move-in times. Students will be able to go online and actually select the time that works best for them. In the past, we've only had 2 days for move-in. It's usually been a Saturday and a Sunday. And this year, we're actually going to extend that to 7 days. So we'll provide all of that information to the students once we have that information available. It'll be really, really important that everyone reads their Wayne State email. Students, if you're new to the university, please make sure that you get into the habit of checking that at least once a day, if not multiple times a day. Wayne State does send a lot of emails, and the housing department also sends emails. And we try to make sure that we get you the information that you need without inundating you with too many emails. But the ones that we send are important and do have lots of information. So please be on the lookout for that move-in email. So we'll provide some information about where you go, how you sign up, and then also who and how many people can come with you. Because I know that that's another question people have been asking about related to move-in is how many people can I have? We will have volunteers to assist you, and we are going to have some limits to the number of family members or friends that would be allowed to help you. So all of that is still coming, but we're working on finalizing some of that information and details.
Great. Okay. And then a question about packages, fridges being delivered. Could that happen and maybe just avoid the move-in day hustle and bustle? Krista?
So I think this year it's a little bit different. Typically the answer is like yes. We get a lot of packages, a lot of TVs, a lot of mini fridges that just get people to order them at Amazon, Costco, anything, and deliver them to the residence halls. 4 of our residence halls, including the Thompson home, are closed this summer. So I would encourage you during the business day to try to call and see what date you're trying to get it sent by to make sure that that residence hall's desk is going to be open to be able to receive that package at that date. If you're trying to do it right now and like send it months ahead, I would say it would probably get returned to sender. But it just all depends on when we open up those 4 residence halls right now. I would say at least 3 to 4 days before move-in, it should be okay. As long as it's getting delivered in that time window, we should be able to accept the package.
For sure. And I would even encourage you to have it sent like maybe the day after or so.
Yeah.
Move in, just so you're sure the desk is open. And if there are people living in the building, the desk will be open. Yeah. So anytime after move-in day, packages can get sent to the desk. Student receives a notification via email. They can pick it up at the desk.
Mm-hmm.
AWD,
we have no size limit of packages we accept. There's no
correct. AWD Studios, full-size fridges? I think so, right?
Yep, they do.
Yep. You're good, Alex. Cool. Okay. That is all the questions for now. Any other tips and tricks from the panel about packing?
Sure. One thing that I always thought, I know a lot of students are tempted to want to bring everything for the entire academic year with them at move-in day. And what I would encourage you to think about is what are those things that you're going to need between August and probably October, and then start to think about, Michigan, we have our 4 seasons. And so, you may want to think about what are the items that you can bring in November for the winter months. So you don't have to bring all of your, boots and jackets and sweaters right at the beginning, but kind of think about, when you might be heading home for a weekend, or when you might have people coming into Detroit to see you, and then you can pack some of those things and kind of do a swap out. So just don't feel like you need to bring everything all at once, because you'll certainly want to kind of get into that space and see how much room is there before you start to bring other items with you. So I'm sure it will be nice and warm during move-in, so you can leave those jackets and heavier clothes at home until a few months after move-in.
Kelly, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry, Jennifer.
sorry. No, that's okay. I was just commenting on Kelly's point. Sorry, I've definitely seen some people come with like U-Haul trailers, and I don't know if they were maybe bringing a couple of different people to college and different campuses and things like that. But definitely you want to get in the room and kind of gauge what size and what you can bring before you want to bring like your whole room from home.
And also too, talk to your roommates, because some things you might not need to bring, because I know a lot of times they get together and somebody will bring the fridge, somebody will bring the whatever. So I think it's a good idea to talk to your roommate as well.
For sure. So I see the question about air dryers. I'm wondering if you meant air fryers or hair dryers. Just
Thinking the same.
I guess we could answer the question for both. Or is air dryers a thing? Then I'm just not aware.
I don't think it's okay.
Okay, I don't believe
unless
air
it's like the rack where you air dry your clothes. Fryers.
Fryers. Okay, gotcha. Just want to make sure. Air fryers are not allowed. Is that right?
Air fryers are not allowed in residence halls. Apartments have different standards because they have a kitchen, and I believe that they are allowed in apartments.
Okay.
Am I correct? I'm looking at
I think
Debbie.
so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those sort of things for like University Tower, and I believe also Anthony Wayne Drive are you can bring those because, like she said, they have full kitchens.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and air fryers are so cool. So that's good. I love mine.
Yeah.
And
if you're living in Atchison or Ghaffari, like we said, you can't, or in Thompson Home or Chatsworth, you can't have them, but you can always get friends in the apartment communities and eat the food.
Yeah. Yes, you can, and you
I'm
should.
serious.
Should we bring our own tools on move-in day? It depends on what you mean by that. We have some mallets for lofting equipment that you can use, but other than that, we really don't have any other tools. So if you have to like put together a bookshelf or something like that, you should definitely bring your own tools. If you need to put holes in the wall, definitely don't bring your tools because that's not allowed. But yeah, if you're needing to put together a piece of furniture or something, you would definitely want to bring your own.
Yeah, and a big tool for move-in that I don't know if it's really considered a tool, but if you have any moving carts or you have I'm blanking on the name.
Dolly,
but it's like
or a hand truck.
Dolly, thank you. Yep, that is exactly what I mean. If you have any of those or know a friend or a cousin or a family relative that does, we strongly encourage you to bring your own moving equipment. Especially with COVID and stuff, we might have limited moving carts or availability to get moving carts this year due to the pandemic. So we strongly encourage wagons, any of your own equipment that you can possibly bring to make the process faster for you.
Yeah, that's a more sanitary way of doing it as well.
Yeah.
And every year at Move-In, we have a backlog just simply because people are waiting for carts and we just don't have enough carts, or the elevators just don't have enough time to go up and down that quickly too. So if you have your own stuff, that's definitely a great tip. Let's talk about clothes for a second. And now if you're wondering about closet spaces, I would highly encourage you to do the virtual tour, just simply because every building just has kind of their own housing or closet space. Like for instance, in Ghaffari, we have wardrobes and a wardrobe per person. Your wardrobe is spacious, but it's not huge. And so I would encourage you to bring your clothes in chunks, right? Just wait for the season, pack up your old clothes, bring in your winter clothes, obviously a few pieces of warm clothes just because it does get cool and stuff sometimes. But if you're bringing your whole wardrobe from home to your residence hall, you're going to run out of space, or the underneath your bed is going to be packed, or whatever. So just be cautious about that, because it's not a huge space, right? Like it's big enough, especially in Ghaffari and Atchison. I would just be cautious about the amount of clothes that you're bringing.
Towers has wardrobes as well. Anthony Wayne Drive and Chatsworth, I'm unsure about. University Towers has sections in the wall for closets. Something that I do, since I don't go home a lot, or if you're an out-of-state student or you just simply live far, that it's not feasible to go home a lot. I got the bags that you can vacuum out all the air in, and it really like shrinks down my winter coats and stuff like that really small, and I would just slide it under my bed. So that's another way to save storage, is to get those bags. They're really, really helpful.
For sure. For sure.
Anthony Wayne Drive has kind of that section in the wall with the hang bar. So that's your closet space there.
Yeah, and same for Chatsworth Suites.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions from the crowd, or any other tips from the panel? Oh, here we go. Shower curtains. Yeah, bring one.
Bring one. Yep. Bring the hanging things too.
Yep. If there's one in the room, then you really shouldn't use it. Full size
works.
Full size is fine. Yeah. I mean, the showers in Ghaffari and Atchison are not full size. Like, they're like a typical shower. They're not a bathtub. But full size is good. Yeah. Good question. I always forgot the shower curtain. Good question. Anything else?
I guess while we're like on showers and stuff like that, like shower caddies would be helpful, and like cleaning supplies too. Some people think that, you know, our housekeepers kind of go in and clean the rooms, but that's the responsibility of the student and the roommate. And however, you know, you all want to work that out. And so definitely bring some cleaning supplies, and make sure that you have a conversation with your roommate on, you know, who's going to take out the trash and who's going to clean the shower and things like that.
For sure. Especially right now. And you know, I know that if you're in a space that's semi-private, like a bathroom in a 2-person room, that you might be like more prone to just kind of leaving things out. But especially during the COVID time and the restrictions and sanitary rules, I would strongly encourage you to keep your own shower bag or caddy or something, just so that you know that you're the only one touching it. It's not being left out. Maybe some people from down the hall are coming and hanging out and they're using your bathroom. So just be cautious. You know, you're going to create those guidelines with your roommate or roommates about who can come in and guests and those kinds of things. But you're 100% positive no one else is touching or near your toothbrush or, you know, your soap or anything like that if it's put away. So, you know, as you pack and consider shopping and things like that, really, really consider sanitary preferences and what you are okay with other people using and what you want to keep to yourself, and make sure you have packaging to make that a reality for you.
I would say that one of the biggest questions that I've seen at the front desk is people coming up and asking for vacuums and brooms. Our front desk don't supply those. So if that's something that you would like to keep with you, I know Target, Walmart, Meijer all have the really super small ones for really cheap, or they're probably on Amazon as well. I had one, I got it my freshman year and I used it throughout grad school. It was pink, it was great, it was tiny. And it like worked wonderfully. And talk with your roommates to see if anybody already has one or has like a little dust collector, because one per suite is more than enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ghaffari Atchison have hard floors, but you know, I would, if you have means, an area rug does really well in those rooms. So if you do have any sort of carpet that you bring, that would be good. But a Swiffer is great too for our floors. Just kind of Swiffer it once a week or whatever. That'll usually take care of it. And same with the bathroom, of course, you can Swiffer that.
Mark, I just want to highlight something that you mentioned that I think is really important. And I know we're doing a webinar in a few weeks about the conversations with your roommate, but this is the time to start having those conversations. And I think all of us who worked in housing for a while, know that some of the biggest issues between roommates is a result of communication. So this is a great opportunity to start that now, to ask them, hey, I attended this packing webinar and I'm starting to think about all the things that I'm going to bring. What are you thinking about bringing? And really, that's a great place to start. And then you can have, more in-depth conversations about, what are we going to do with the cleaning, and what am I expecting of you, and what are you expecting of me, related to, bedtimes or watching TV, or, playing games, any of those different things. So I think the packing conversation is a really easy one to start with your roommate. And that will lead, I think, then to you having more opportunities to continue those conversations over the next 6 weeks before move-in.
For sure. And we do have some required housing or roommate agreement conversations for you to have, but it's never too early to start that. And honestly too, we have our CDC recommendations for keeping your distance and sanitizing and things like that, but everyone kind of has their own rules about what that looks like. And so just having conversations in general about anything COVID related, whether that's, people in our space, what we can use, what can guests use, like those kinds of conversations are all really helpful. So if you don't want, if you don't want people using your hand soap, for instance, then you need to make sure that everyone has their own hand soap. Because that's something that is just automatic, that everyone just uses the hand soap by the sink. So just kind of things like that make it a little trickier right now, but it's really important that you consider that and have that conversation with your roommates. Even if your roommates are your friends, you still need those, because your friends might practice social distancing differently than you do. And so just make sure you're considering all of the people that are living in your space. If you have suite mates, even, like, that's a common space etiquette. Like, how do you want to do that? Or an apartment, how does our living room function? How does our kitchen function? Those kinds of conversations are important to have, and we'll make sure that you have those conversations. But if you have them early, then your official roommate agreement conversations will go much easier.
For sure. I know when I was in college, I roomed with one of my friends actually from high school. And so we thought that everything was going to be fine. We knew each other for a while, it was just automatically going to click. And admittedly, we didn't have some of those conversations. And they definitely would have been helpful, because sometimes you really don't know, what is maybe not normal. If you're like in a different space with somebody else and stuff like that. So definitely can't echo what Mark and Kelly said enough. Make sure you're communicating and having those conversations early, so then you kind of know what to expect throughout the school year, because y'all are going to be studying and you'll have other stuff to be worrying about than, if someone using your hand soap or what have you. Or I know for me, one of my rules was guests could like sit in my desk chair, but I didn't like people sitting on my bed. And so if we didn't have that conversation in the beginning, or if I didn't know that about myself and I came in my room and like somebody was sitting there, that could be like a tension point or what have you.
Another big question we get is about TVs. Wayne State Housing does provide cable in all of our residence halls, but that looks a little bit different in Anthony Wayne Drive and Chatsworth Suites. In those, you will need a Roku or something that connects to the Xfinity app, and that's how you'll sign in to get cable in Anthony Wayne Drive and Chatsworth Suites. And all the other residence halls, and Debbie is UT cable cords as well. Yep, so all the other residence halls and university towers, you will have to bring a cable cord to connect to the cable.
Yeah, for sure. And just a point of clarification, I have an Apple TV and Xfinity is not compatible with Apple TV. So I think that only the Roku infrastructure works with Xfinity. And I know there are some really cheap Rokus out there too. So even if you have that little Roku mini thing that you just plug in, that will work. But Apple TV, most smart TVs, Xfinity just doesn't work well with them. So Roku's the way to go. And I do need to clarify one thing. I've been talking a lot about guests. We have suspended the guest policy at the recommendation of the CDC guidelines and common practice at other institutions. So guests from outside of the building at this time are not allowed in the building. And so when I'm referring to guests, I mean other members of the same hall. So somebody from down the hall in Ghaffari can come into your room if that's an agreed upon thing for everyone in the room. But you know, your best friend from a different building or from outside of the institution at this time won't be allowed in the residence halls, and that's just simply for the safety of you, the resident, and the security of the building as well. So just wanted to clarify that.
We do have like a lot of outside space though, so we're not saying like you all can't, you know, entertain people and, you know, be excited about college and connecting. For example, Atchison and Ghaffari share a really huge courtyard with a lot of green space. People go out there and play catch and frisbee. People somehow tap hammocks out there and have yoga mats. I know Anthony Wayne Drive Apartments also has a really nice courtyard. We're working on some greenery space in front of Chatsworth. And so definitely like different options for you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I'm also not saying that this is a forever policy. You know, as well as we do, that things are changing rapidly everywhere because of this pandemic. So if there are recommendations to lift that, we'll look into that and we'll notify people. But for the time being, and we're planning on for the fall semester, we're going to keep the residence halls closed to just residents.
Another thing that I was thinking about while we're talking about packing items is, as you're having this conversation with your roommate, you also may want to talk about your classes, because we know that many classes are going up to an online version. And so you may just want to think, you know, do you need to bring another set of headphones, or, you know, what will that look like, so that you're prepared for your courses, whatever the delivery method would be. I know, you know, for me, I really like the headset because then I can't hear other things that are going on, or, you know, my dog's barking in the background and things like that. So that might just be a conversation. You know, you may have a personal preference as to, you know, how you plan to do your schoolwork virtually. But that would be another thing to think about, is kind of that technology that you might need. And we're working, you know, to be able to provide that to students who need it. But if you have some of that and you have things that are going to make it easier, you know, you may want to connect through your TV with your classes instead of on your laptop. So just kind of think through that as well, as we're going through this COVID time. You know, things are a little bit different. So that could be some other things to kind of put on your conversation list, and then possibly your packing list.
For sure. Okay, I want to put out a last call for any lingering questions, and make sure we answer everything that you're wondering. And while we do that, I just want to do one more plug to housing.wayne.edu that has fast information for you regarding the makeup of spaces, what is and isn't allowed, policies and procedures, how to apply, and the process for applying, links to the self-service portal if you don't know who your roommate is. All of that stuff is on housing.wayne.edu, and there's even a chat feature where you can talk live with somebody during business hours. And if it's not during business hours, notification will get sent out to a person to respond to you with your questions. So, you know, I want to make sure you know there are still resources out there for you if you have lingering questions after this, or think of something that we maybe didn't cover. And there's definitely opportunity for you to engage outside of this. And I do really encourage you to sign up for one of our personalized virtual room tours as well. Okay, it looks like there are no more questions. Any final words from any of the panelists?
Bring a first aid kit.
Bring a first aid kit. Okay. And with that,
hopefully you never have to use it.
Right. And with that, just thank you so much for attending the webinar. Hopefully you got your questions answered. And if not, hopefully we pointed you to the right direction. But feel free to engage with us through the website if there's anything else that you need. So thank you all so much for coming.